We are all here to start the Elderly Bowl Tell All. We're really excited. This is a opportunity for all of us to come together again. So we're just excited to be here. I know a lot of you already saw on Instagram the starting lineup, but I just want to go through one more time for those of you that maybe didn't know this was happening, maybe you didn't see on Facebook or Instagram. So I just want to introduce to you my fellow elderly bulls here. So first one, we got Scout McLaren. She was the top assist leader in modern day scoring for UB. She also was a 4-year captain for the University at Buffalo, so she always told us what to do. Second, we got Polina Prokudina, who right now she is currently in Greece. She's a professional volleyball player. She was a former outside hitter for University at Buffalo, and she is ranked in the top 5 for points, all-time points per match and per set for in the history of UB. So awesome job, Polina.
Thank you.
Next up, we got Rachel Sanks. She was the 2020 NCSA All-American athlete. In 2019, she was selected for the first team All-MAC selection as a former outside hitter for UB. Also, she was my roommate for all 4 years, forever roommate. Next up, we got Christina Nieves. She was a 2018 second team All-MAC selection as a middle blocker for UB.
So yeah, I'm Scout McLaren. My number while I was playing at UB was number 9, and I was the setter. Right now, I got both of my degrees from UB, and now I'm just kind of taking some time off traveling and camping before I start applying to jobs. But yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Polina Prokudina. I was number 19 at UB, playing both outside and right side. Currently a professional volleyball player in Greece, living my best life, at the same time trying to get my master's degree in the sport and coaching. So very excited to be here and spend some time with you guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I'm currently living back home in Alexandria, Virginia right now. I was number 6 outside hitter at UB, and what I'm doing right now is actually I just started a new job at the Military Officers Organization of America, working in their member services center. So new chapter.
Hey guys, I'm Chris. I currently live in New Jersey back home. Right now I'm working as a paraprofessional in an elementary school and interning under the school psychologist. I'm getting my master's in child psychology and I graduate in May. I was number 8 and one of the middle blockers on the team.
So now a lot of you guys submitted questions that you had for us about our experience at UB, and we're here to give you some advice, and from different places, different backgrounds. I think we can give you guys a lot of perspective, and hopefully you guys will take away something that can enhance your own athlete development and experience as you go through whatever sport you're doing. Everybody wants to know how the recruiting process went for us individually. How did we know that Buffalo was the right fit? And, you know, talk about your transfer process if you did make that decision and where you started. So we can kind of, let's keep the same rotation we have going. And Scout, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I first kind of started getting recruited whenever I was probably like a freshman in high school. I'd been playing since like playing competitively, I guess, since I was probably like 12. So I got a pretty early start on things, I guess, in this grand scheme of things. Yeah, I first started getting recruited sometime like early high school, but honestly didn't really invest a lot of time or energy into it until I would say like my junior year of high school. And that's whenever actually the recruiting coordinator for that, who ended up being our recruiting coordinator for Buffalo, Scott Smith, he reached out to me at the school that he was at. And I was from the South already. I knew that I kind of wanted to try something different, go to a bigger school, maybe up north, and had good like studies and things like that. And I gave him kind of my list of what I wanted in a school, and the school he was currently at didn't exactly fit that. So then I just was like, thank you, but no thank you. And then he got the job at Buffalo and was like, showed me the list right back in my face and was like, we have everything you want. And so I went on a recruiting visit there, and I went on a trip with my family to Niagara Falls. And as soon as I crossed back into the American border, I called to commit. So that was pretty much my story of getting recruited.
Nice. And were you happy? Do you think it was the right fit after spending 4 years there? Do you think it definitely was the right decision for you?
Yeah, I mean, I spent 4 years and then another 2 there. So I decided to stay at Buffalo to get my master's. So I love it there. I've even to this day, I think about like moving back to the Buffalo area. It's just I love it there. So.
All right, Polina, why don't you tell us yours?
Yeah, well, since I was an international student athlete, it was quite a bit different experience for me. I started playing volleyball when I was 12. And for me, we had a huge tournament when I was a sophomore in high school. And I knew that we're going to have an American coach come and watching us playing. So I just got very lucky because he saw me. He said, hey, like, the coach was from Syracuse University. In my freshman year, I studied at Syracuse University, and then I transferred to Buffalo. But I just got very lucky because he saw me right away. He saw my potential and asked me why not to try go to America and like get my studies done and still play volleyball, which was a unique opportunity. I'm still very thankful for this to come out to my life. But then at Syracuse, it was just hard to understand, like I wasn't quite a good fit for me because I didn't have enough playing time. And then during the spring tournament, we actually ended up playing against Buffalo, and I saw all our coaches and I saw the girls and I was like, hey, like it looks like a great team. And then after making some considerations and trying to understand what I want from in the future, I decided to transfer to Buffalo, and I think it was one of the best decisions in my life, and meeting all my friends and my UB family.
All right, Rachel, tell us your story.
So I guess I started playing kind of late in comparison because I played volleyball in like 7th and 8th grade, but it was like this like random rec league. And then I tried out for my high school freshman team, didn't think I'd make it, but I did. And so from there, like my freshman high school coach was like, oh my God, you should play club. Like, here's this club I coach for. You should try out there. And I was like, oh, okay, didn't think I'd make that either. But again, I did. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. And I didn't start really looking at colleges or getting looked at by colleges until my junior year, like junior year high school, junior year club. And honestly, I wouldn't have even heard about Buffalo if it wasn't for my high school coach, Jared. He was the one that he knew Blair from college. And so I guess they were just having like a conversation one night, and Blair was like, yo, like, I need an outside. Do you know anybody? And he was like, I do know somebody. And he put us in contact. And I think Buffalo was the only official visit that I went on. So everything paid for, whatever. And yeah, like I met the girls and everything. They were all so friendly. The food there was great. So I was like, that's a big plus. Coaches, I meshed really well with all the coaches from the start. So I was like, I think this is the one. And yeah, never regretted it.
An extra question for you, because you guys can agree or disagree, but I think, Rachel, you're probably the most athletic person I know and ever played with. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but like you held records in lifting, you held records in track at your high school. So being a multi-sport athlete who's excelling so well in all different areas, how did you know? Because you could probably gotten a scholarship to go run track, So how did you choose volleyball? Was that a hard decision? What's your advice for athletes that are in the same position?
It wasn't hard necessarily for me, just because I knew I loved volleyball way more than I ever tolerated track. But either way, like I had super supportive coaches in both sports that I was doing that were like, hey, like I can reach out to the school for you, like I can help you with this part of the process, this part of the process. So honestly, I would just say, like if you have a coach that you can trust that cares about you, like stay in contact with them, like ask them for help, everything like that. I wouldn't be here without the coaches that I had. So yeah.
Support system. Awesome. All right, Chris, what about you? What's your story?
So I started volleyball super late in the game. I didn't start playing until I was 16. My junior year of high school. I had played soccer, basketball, and softball, but my softball coach actually got me into volleyball because she was like, wow, hey, you're tall. You should play volleyball. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've never played before. I don't think I'll be good at it. So I started super late in the game. Um, I didn't start my recruiting process until after my first season of club, which was my junior year. And I started in the summer. I think it was after AAU Nationals. So by that time, a lot of schools had already fulfilled their rosters. So I was a little worried about where I was going to go. And actually, my one club coach was coaching at St. Peter's University in New Jersey. So I ended up going there my freshman year. And I mainly went there because of the volleyball. I really didn't take into consideration the school or like the people or the location. So after my first season, I knew that I wanted to transfer really badly. And by that point, again, you know, the recruiting process, it was super late because I was looking to transfer in February of freshman year. So I reached out to a lot of the schools that were recruiting me in high school, but they had fulfilled their rosters again. And this one coach actually sent me a list of schools looking for transfer middle blockers. So I just sent my release out and hoped to hear back from a coach. And actually, Scott emailed me back and he was like, hey, we're really interested. Like, can you get some film? We want to see you play. And I played in an adult tournament in, I think it was February. And he flew me out in March. And I knew immediately from my visit, meeting everybody and sleeping on Scout's floor. And I just knew right away that that was where I wanted to be. I wanted to be further from home. I wanted that close-knit family feel of a team. And the good food too. I mean, there was a Moe's on campus, so I said, yes, of course. So I knew right away, and it's the best decision I could have ever made in my life.
Yeah, it's cool to hear all of our recruiting stories because they're also different, especially the starting points, which I think a lot of athletes right now, I mean, even, you know, at Rock City where I'm at, you have 11-year-olds to 18-year-olds. And I think when you start getting to about 16, you have all this pressure to get recruited. And really, there is no rush. You know, there's no pressure. Everybody's going to have a different journey, a different starting point, you know, and how they make that decision. So a little bit about my recruiting process. I committed really early to Buffalo. It was the summer after my sophomore year of high school. And I committed because I knew when I stepped on campus, it was the people that I fell in love with and the environment, and it just felt right. I went on a couple visits, and I actually committed to a coach who was at Buffalo. His name was Reed Sunahara. He was the head coach for the program at the time. And then shortly after I committed, he ended up leaving and taking the head coaching position at West Virginia. And that's when the new coaching staff came in with Scott, who you guys keep hearing his name. He's now the head coach for UB. But at the time it was Scott Smith, Adam McLam, and Blair Brown, who was the head coach who came in. And I remember thinking, you know, and you guys may go through this where there may be a coaching change in your recruiting process. And it's like, oh my gosh, do they want me anymore? Does my scholarship still stand? Like, it's a scary thing because you already fully made a commitment. And I was like, what do I do now? But ended up going back to Buffalo, meeting Blair, Scott, and Adam, and they were the best trio I could possibly think of for a coaching staff. I remember I called Blair all the time just to make sure I was on the right track with what I needed to do, preparing to go to college. But once I committed, I always based my decision off the people and the opportunities the school had to offer. And I knew Buffalo had all that. And a big thing too for me, like I'm in Ohio, and we were in the MAC conference. So we had so many schools in Ohio. And I'm like, I can get away, but also come home and have support. So I definitely knew that was a good decision. Now, some questions that we got about recruiting. So what advice would you guys give to people in terms of what should really drive their decision? What factors do you guys think are the most important when kids are trying to decide what school to go to?
I think when looking at recruiting, you have to also separate volleyball from the school and think about, if you didn't play volleyball there, would you still go? And that was a big thing for me, was that's, what happened with my first school. I just looked at volleyball. So then like leaving practices or leaving games and having to be on campus, I'm like, you know what, this really isn't the place for me. So that was a big factor for me when looking to transfer, was like, okay, if I'm not playing volleyball, could I still see myself here?
I'd say also, if you have a chance to, like, on an official visit or whatever, to sit down with the team and like talk to the girls and just hang out with the girls directly, like that's a big thing too, just to know what the team dynamic is going in.
I would say like especially that, because like I feel a lot of the time you'll know right away like if you guys are gonna click or not, type of deal. And I guess my other advice would be try your best not to, if you already have an idea of what major you want in your head, try not to concede that just to play volleyball, or try to talk to, like any of the advisors at the school or something like that, to see if like, hey, you guys don't have this major. Is there something similar that I can do? Like if I decide to go here type of deal, because education comes first, obviously.
I mean, I originally majored in health and phys ed at St. Peter's, and Buffalo didn't have health and phys ed, but I really like wanted Buffalo to be the school that I went to. So I talked with the advisor and was like, hey, can we make this work? If I want to do this down the road. She was really good about saying like, you can major in, health and human services and then minor in this, and then work your way to health and phys ed. But I ended up changing my major anyways, the sophomore. Well, I stuck with health and human services, but also added a psych major. So yeah.
You'd also be like surprised at like some schools, like how much flexibility some of the majors have. Like, I was technically biology for undergrad, but I ended up basically doing more of like an environmental science degree just because of how many electives I was allowed. And also, like, don't discount a minor. Like if they have a minor that you're interested in, that loops in things a little better, then don't like be afraid to add a little minor to your major, do something.
Now, Scout, you graduated also in the honors college, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that, because I know some athletes are already learning about the honors college in the recruiting process. Is that something that you advise student athletes to do? How did you manage all of that, and what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking into an honors college, I think that probably means that you're going to take the initiative to like probably do a little bit of the extra work to stay in the honors college, things like that. For Buffalo especially, I know a lot of honors colleges, there's a little bit of a volunteering aspect of things, but then for the most part, it's keeping your GPA up and things like that. So in my opinion, if you're already like an academic minded person, then go ahead, just at least try for it, apply, see if you get in. I know a lot of honors colleges also, like you don't have to apply right as soon as your freshman year. I know Buffalo, there's also you can get in your sophomore year and like later on if you want. But
How much do you think parents should be involved in the recruiting process when communicating with coaches?
I think as little as possible. At the end of the day, this is your future and your decision. And coaches want to get to know you as a person, not your parents. Even though, coaches do look at your parents as well when recruiting you. They look at your background, or like how you grew up, and how your parents kind of act during your games. So in that aspect, parents are very important. But through the recruiting process, it's all you. It's all you all on you as an athlete. I know for me, I would always like forward the emails to my dad, be like, hey, help me say something. Like, what should I say? Just to like have that second opinion when responding to coaches.
I would say, like, completely agree with Chris. Like, if you're contacting a coach, it needs to be from your phone, your email address, like everything. Like, I would say, take full responsibility for the communication, and also just as far as like the quality of communication, just make sure you're being like open and honest. Like we all just told stories about how we turned down schools and it was not the end of the world. Like you just need to if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. The coaches have gone through that. They'll understand. Like it's not, doesn't need to be built up into this big thing. Just be honest with them and tell them how you're feeling.
If anything, I would say like over communicate. Like if you need any advice on that, like you don't want to under communicate because they're gonna think like, oh, maybe she's not enthusiastic about this program, or maybe she's entertaining other offers and things while she's not communicating with us. So if anything, I would say over communicate. And like Chris and Scout said, like I wouldn't get parents involved at all because at the end of the day, they're recruiting you, not your family. And I would say probably just involve them for, logistical things. Like if they offer you a visit, be like, oh, hey, mom and dad, like, does this offer sound good? Like, is this something we can do? Stuff like that.
I also think one thing that is a part of our culture right now is ghosting. It's like in the dating culture world more, but it's one of the worst things you could do to a coach. So Scout said exactly one thing I was going to say is don't be afraid to be honest with coaches. I know feeling rejected or rejecting someone else is one of the hardest things to do or go through in life, but it's something that we have to get comfortable with, and it will show such a high level of character if you respect a coach's time. If they reach out to you and you respond to them in an honest and respectful manner, it's going to benefit you in the long run, because volleyball is such a small world. You may talk to one coach, and you may think they have no connection to someone else, but they actually do. And they'll start talking about, hey, have you ever heard of Hannah Watson? I'll use my name for example. And this coach is going to say, yes, she never responds to my email. She ghosts me all the time. That's going to influence a coach who is interested in you and how they move forward with you along in your recruiting process. So definitely do not ghost any coaches. Respond to all emails and just get comfortable with that type of communication early on.
Yeah, I would also say like try to prepare in advance, maybe like prepare the questions you want to ask, because like going off like what all the girls told, like my parents didn't speak English, so it was such a big issue for me because I needed to communicate with the coaches. And I remember my mom sitting next to me during one of the video calls with Scott, and I literally needed to translate every single thing Scott would tell to me. But I, in advance, did some investigation, prepared the questions, wrote them down in case you're very nervous like me sometimes and you forget. So it's just all about like this preparation for the process.
And not even just coaches, like we had a girl come with a notebook of questions on one of the visits, and honestly it was awesome. Like we loved seeing that enthusiasm, seeing how like excited she was for the visit, how prepared she was, like, and half the time like we want to talk about that stuff, it's just we don't know if we should initiate on like recruiting visits and things like that. So especially if you're interested in a school, show some initiative and it goes a long way.
I remember, and like I said already, I called Blair a lot. I reached out to Scott a lot before I got to Buffalo. And I really think that made me so much more comfortable coming into the school. I think you can build a relationship with a coach way before you get to the school. And I know, once you guys make that decision, coaches want to see your personality. They want to know, okay, how is this newbie going to gel with our team?
So clean up your social media for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Make sure that your social media is cleaned up and you don't have anything you wouldn't want an adult to really see.
That's a good one. That is
coaches will like research your social media and really like look and see what you're posting. And immediately, if they see something they don't like or something that doesn't align with their culture as a team, they're going to dismiss you, which is unfortunate. But
Google yourself.
Google yourself. That is true.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can talk about, I don't know what year we started doing the social media meeting, but I know it wasn't freshman year. I don't remember freshman year.
I think it was junior year.
I want to say it was junior year because we did it 2 years, I think. but we'll tell you guys a little bit about a meeting we had, and we'll get more into learn more about your experience as a student athlete. I think a lot of times you guys think it might just be volleyball in school, and you have so much more than that. Tons of meetings, and one of the ones we had was a social media meeting about how we should manage it, and the biggest thing was, as student athletes, you're in a fishbowl. I'm sure you guys learn about that now, even being in high school or middle school. Eyes are on you, and people are constantly waiting to find something that they can hold over your head. But it was funny. So we went to this meeting, and the presenter actually pulled up some accounts from other athletes on different teams at UB, and he called out people on our team for certain posts, and we laugh about it. And Chris, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I mean, I was one of the athletes called out, but and I had no idea that he was like looking that deep into social media, because
What year did he go into?
Years ago.
like 2014, like sophomore year in high school, because he looked at me and he was like, Chris, right? And I said, yes. And he was like, how many tweets do you think you have? And I was like, oh, I don't know, a lot, probably like 34,000 from high school. And he was like, oh, that sounds about right. He was like, you really need to clean up your Twitter, because I would not hire you for a job. And I said, oh, okay. So then, I went back into my Twitter, and I didn't realize all of the tweets that I had from like high school. So I just had to delete.
Even
But
Finstas. I will say they even
Yeah.
knew about Finstas. They knew about private stuff. Like they might not be able to see the posts. I don't know, but they can tell that you have that account, and you have multiple accounts. You have private accounts. So
yeah, especially with TikTok too. Even though it may not be your sound that you're recording, if you're still, making a video to it, that kind of represents you.
He
And
does.
also not only the stuff which you're creating, but also what you like in, or what are you searching in
Yeah.
Google, and it is huge.
It is. And I get where coaches are coming from, guys, well, and employers, everyone, because at the end of the day, you learn in sports, you're not representing just you, you're representing that logo, you're representing that team, that culture. And so, even from personal experience, like we posted, this was our senior year. It was a cute picture with Pauline and I. It's so funny because most of you are gonna know. Well, I don't know. A lot of them probably won't know Jersey Shore, but
That was you and I, not Paulina.
it was junior year.
it was like all of us. It was you and I. Sorry, it was Chris. But we took a cute picture. You guys know how, I'm sure many of you have tapestries in your room and with the cute little lights, whatever. And didn't even think anything of it. We took a cute side-by-side pic of us next to this tapestry. But the tapestry was a quote from Jersey Shore about activities in a club. And it just, we didn't even think about it because it's just a cute picture, but we go to practice the next day and our coach is like, you have to take that down. He's like, you guys aren't doing anything bad, but it's the words in the background. We 100%, we were like, we're laughing about it at first, but then we're like, yes, we will take that down. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember that picture that we took together? And we were somebody was like throwing like a get together at their apartment, and we were like maybe 20 feet into the foreground, and we were taking our picture, and like in the background on the fridge, like half a room away, was a bottle of alcohol. And I didn't see it, you didn't, like nobody, whatever, like nobody noticed it. And I posted it on Instagram, and the next day I get called into the office, and our coaches were like, so what is that? And I was like, listen, I know what it looks like, but that's not what we do. I just want a cute picture. Like, please don't kick me off. Like, please, like, I'm sorry. Like, please be careful. Like, people notice things, even if you don't.
People notice.
Venmo also. what you write in your descriptions for Venmo. If you're a public account, people can see that also.
Indeed.
100%.
So everything, cover your bases.
This is a tell-all. I mean, and back to that, like, it's the little things that matter. And, you know, red Solo cups, like, even if you guys aren't drinking alcohol, you know, and I understand that sometimes, and I applaud people where obviously there's tons of pressure to drink. You know, sometimes you might have a cup in your hand just to get people off of you to get you to drink, which is a good idea. I get that. I get that method of, you know, you don't want people to peer pressure you. So I'm just going to have water, but make it look like I'm drinking so that nobody bothers me. But on social media, say you're holding a red Solo cup or whatever, something that looks like there could be alcohol in there. That person viewing that picture, it's going to be you versus them. And at the end of the day, they could make the accusation that you were drinking. So you just don't want to put yourself in the position where that's happening. And this is our tell-all. So, I mean, we did have a moment our senior year. And, you know, we'll get into this later in terms of leadership, but we take responsibility sometimes for these little things because we had a freshman make a poor decision with an emoji on Venmo. And Venmo is a public application, so people can see, you know, how much money you're transferring and why you're transferring it. And so it's just important that on all platforms you're representing your program well. We went into practice the next day and opened up with 10 suicides, and we're like, okay, never making sure checking Venmo from here on out. Good times.
I guess for like the little ones, make sure you're getting good film.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you playing, whether it's like game, whatever, like practice, like make sure you film yourself and make sure it's good quality. Because when it came time to make my recruiting video, I did not have a lot of like good high quality video to put in my like highlight reel or whatever. So just make sure that you're getting good stuff on film and it's like good quality, not blurry, not, you know, shaking the camera and things like that.
Coaches probably a minute into your video already know if they're interested in you or not. You know, so you want to make sure, you know, like that first impression, like Rachel said, it's good quality. It's showing, you know, your best highlights. You know, I know like they don't want crazy music, crazy effects. They want to see whatever you want to be recruited for. They want to see your fundamentals in those areas. So
I would say also, as far as like camps and things go, like just trying to get exposure, like watching coach or getting coaches to watch you. Like if you are going to the camps, just make sure that they're recommended for recruiting, because sometimes I mean, obviously colleges run camps for profit also, and so they're just trying to get as many people as possible. But if you have the option to go to an elite camp or something like that where it's kind of differentiated, then usually those are better for recruiting. You're not like lost in a sea of girls as much. So,
I think with the showcases, don't be afraid to perform because you know that you have eyes on you. So it's very intimidating. And you don't want to mess up. But I promise you, coaches will not remember like one mistake that you made. They're just really looking at how you engage with your teammates and how you bounce back from, you know, adversity on the court. So really like take that into consideration when, I mean, anytime you play on the court, like leave it all there.
and a
And,
lot
like-
of times coaches are looking for like potential. They're looking for like athleticism. They're looking for, your mindset more, like to quote our former head coach, he recruits people for who they're going to be their senior year. They're not looking for you to be amazing right off the bat. Some coaches are like, they're just looking for how well you're going to perform in a volleyball program, like in the end. So they're looking for what you're going to be like 4 years down the line sometimes.
Yeah, and I like there's like going back to the mistakes thing that Chris mentioned, like really, really, truly do not be afraid to make them, because like with that, there's good mistakes and there's bad mistakes. And as long as you're making like good mistakes, coaches are gonna they're gonna notice that. Like if you're just making egregious errors, then they're gonna be like, oh, maybe not. But you know, as long as you know you're just, you know, giving your all and like there's good good habits there, then like the coaches are going to see that, even if maybe the ball like missed the line by a few inches. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would also like stick to the safe option. Like, let's say you never did a jump float, and only because coach is watching, you decided to do, oh, let me do this crazy stuff to impress. But no, just if you have a good serve and just not jump low, like keep doing it. You got it.
That is really good advice. Like, you don't want to try to be a hero, just be good at what you're good at. It takes one coach to notice you. It takes one coach to invest in you. It takes one coach to believe in your potential. So also don't be discouraged. There are going to be girls that have 5+ offers, that have 10+ schools interested in them. It's going to happen. But it doesn't mean that if you're not having 5+ or you don't even have one yet, that does not mean your chances are gone. There are so many opportunities out there. There are so many schools. As long as you guys are communicating, like we talked about already, you're representing yourself well, and you're consistent with going to practice and filming yourself and all those things we talked about, there is always that opportunity where you get noticed. And here's another thing too. We all have 4 years of eligibility. Even if you go into your first year of school and you're still not recruited, you could still get recruited by the school. You could transfer. You just don't know. So don't ever count yourself out. Because if you already count yourself out, that's the only way that you won't get that opportunity. So just continue to believe in yourself. It takes one person. Okay. So we're gonna kind of switch gears and start looking at other questions that were sent. You guys good?
yep.
Yep.
We don't need a media break, a water break.
Go to cut to commercial.
First question I have on the list here, and I think it's a great one, is how did we balance our school, our social, and our sport life playing at Buffalo? Who wants to start with that one?
I'll start, I guess. I would probably just say for me was that like make sure that you have clear-cut lines of like, these hours are going to be for volleyball. These hours I'm going to focus on school. These hours I'm going to, take some time to, take care of myself, take care of my mental, like just make sure that you have those clear-cut hours. Cause if you're sitting in class or sitting trying to do your homework and you're, thinking about, oh my God, I missed that serve in practice. Like it's not serving your schoolwork. Or like if you're in practice and you're like, oh my God, this exam later, it's not serving you in practice, things like that. So just make sure that you're clearly defining those lines.
I think going off of that too, just being present where you are. I think as a student athlete, we always tend to think ahead of like what we're doing the rest of the day, because, if you practice at 7 a.m., it's going to be a long day. But I think just like really being focused on where you are, and like Rachel said, focusing on your schoolwork when it's time for schoolwork, and practice when it's time for practice, and like having that social life too. And I think what also helped with us is that we all had the same schedule, or like a similar schedule. So we were going through it together. So we would come into the locker room and, talk about our day. And that's such as small as it is, like that goes into the social life, and just us like, talking through it with each other, and realizing that, having those relationships to get through the other hard stuff is so important.
I would say one more thing is like time management is huge. Like a big part of that is just being present. So like if you are doing schoolwork, like maybe go to the library, like make yourself go to the library, turn off your phone, put it in a drawer, like really focus. And then also like most club players have pretty good time management skills already because they've had to balance practice and school for so long. But it's another level in college because there are you're on your own, so it's like there's a lot more distractions, there's a lot more opportunity for you to like goof off, not do your work, there's nobody like looking over your shoulder. But I would say like, yeah, blocking off time, making time to study, being like making a conscious effort to block off your time so that you do have that social life or social time where you're able to like take some time off, like work hard and then be able to take some rest.
And like going off of what Scout said, do not be afraid to go to the library. You don't have to study in your dorm. You don't have to, be in your bed or whatever it is. Like I remember my freshman and sophomore year, I made fun of people in my head that would be at the library all the time. But then my junior and senior year, I gave it a try and I got so much more productive, so much more work done. It's so much easier to focus when you're just in a place that's like quiet, like you see all these other people, doing their thing. Like it's just so much better. So like environment where you do what you do is just really important.
I would just say also don't be afraid to like admit that you struggle, use your support system, like your family, coaches, your teammates are there. Like they're all interested in you to grow as a person, as a player, as a student. So don't be afraid to go to professors and it's like, hey, like what I can do better. And like, maybe is there any extra resources I can use? So just don't be afraid to use the system. Ask your academic advisor for advice and just they're going to help you.
And going off of that too, we have such a strong support staff. As a student athlete, we have a lot of resources in terms of study hall, academic advisor, tutoring. And luckily for us, like our study hall hours could be done right above our locker room. But like Polina said, reach out for help when you're struggling, because at the end of the day, it's student athlete, not athlete student. Your academics come first.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Scout already talked about time management, but also compartmentalizing your life. Not all things are related. And so, for example, I think you can be so overwhelmed as a student athlete at any level, not just college, but also in high school, because you have all these roles that you have, like you have relationships in your social life. You're trying to excel in the classroom, you're trying to excel on the court, you're constantly competing, you're trying to get certain numbers, and it's that pressure of not only are you, game day, which is game day or test day, but you have to prepare for game day and test day. And so it can be a lot. And I remember specifically one practice, I called it kissing the ball, like when you just miss the ball. And I'm just like, I did this, guys. I'm not even kidding you. Like we were doing a digging drill, just coaches around the box. I kissed 80% of the balls I tried to dig. And I was like, okay. And I'm pretty sure it was when I was in physics, and everyone here knows physics nearly made me want to drop out of college. And I straight up didn't go to a friend dinner. It was one of our best teammates' birthday dinner, and I didn't go because I scored like 3 percentage points below average. And I was like, I don't deserve to eat. I was just like, I'm not going anywhere. But I remember I was walking out of practice. Rachel and I had to leave early because we had class. And Blair was like, Hannah. I'm like, yes. I'm like holding everything in. I'm like, yes, coach. She's like, are you okay? And like when she asked that, I was like, no, I'm not okay. I can't dig a ball. I can't pass physics. I'm gonna hyperventilate. And like, I laugh about that moment. I even have a Snapchat from that day of me like crying on the floor in the locker room. And I share this because it's so real, where I was trying to like make two things unrelated, like support the reason why I was not digging the ball. Like I wasn't not digging the ball because I wasn't doing well in physics, but I thought maybe that was related. Do you get what I'm saying? So just they're two separate things. Like you can be excelling in volleyball and struggling in the classroom and vice versa. And another thing too is when I didn't do as well as I wanted to on my physics exam, I probably should have went to dinner with my friends to kind of just like get a break. Like there's nothing I could have done to that test score. It was already done. So instead I was like, I need to punish myself. I don't deserve it. But really I should have taken time to, compensate while having a healthy social life. So
bouncing off my hands, all of us have had mental breakdowns in the locker room. We've all gone into our academic advisor's office being like, tell me straight up, am I gonna drop out? Like, am I gonna fail out of college? Like, we all had those moments, and yet we all still made it. Like you will, it'll be easier than you think it will. It's not all doom and gloom.
It feels like the end of the world. It feels like the end of the world in that moment. Yeah.
But like now, like that we're here, to whatever, how many years after college, we can laugh about it. But in the moment, oh my goodness, it just feels like everything is ending.
You're like, take me out of my misery.
I would also say you can have a day like such a bad day that you're gonna fail in volleyball, in class, and in your personal life. But let me tell you, they're gonna be brighter days. It's gonna become better.
Yeah. One thing I talked with them about at Beyond a little bit was like, I asked them, what do you do for you? Like, what do you do just for you, not for volleyball, not for school, not for your parents, not for your boyfriend? Like, what do you do for you? And one thing, you know, Rachel was my roommate, so she saw most of like how I decompressed, but like my room didn't have anything volleyball in it. It was like, do you remember I like picked like a feather theme? I would light candles, I would like clean it, and then I would like sit there after like volleyball and I would do all my work in there. But it was like my safe space, and that was like my room. Like I didn't want anything about volleyball or school like in there unless I had to like do schoolwork. You know what I mean? And it's okay. I think you guys also need to hear this as athletes is like, guys, it's okay to just take a break. Like, it's okay to watch Netflix for hours. It's okay to binge on Netflix. It's okay to have a dessert every once in a while that you really want. It's okay to hang out with friends and not study, you know, if you have been preparing consistently. So don't put too much pressure on yourself that you have to constantly go, 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 go. Like, you'll learn this like just physically, rest and recovery. You're not going to maximize performance or maximize your physical training if you don't rest and recover. And social life is a big part of that. So don't neglect that because you think you need to get recruited or you need to get that spot so bad that you can never take a break.
One thing that I struggled with throughout college, and like now I feel like it's everywhere, but like self-care is very real. And like I feel like it's always portrayed as like lighting candles and having a bubble bath or like whatever. And that was not my vibe. Like that's not how I like decompress or de-stress, whatever Hannah wants to call it. But like for me, it took me like a long time that like sometimes my form of self-care is like puzzles or like doing like just stuff that you personally enjoy, you get a lot of enjoyment out of, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like a spa experience or like something like that. But yeah, just take time for yourself.
Yeah, everyone has their own thing. Like for me, like it might have seemed like procrastination to the outside world, but for me, like what I did was I just literally would just go and I would get myself like I don't know, like one of my favorite restaurants on campus was like Pistachios or Moe's or something. Rachel's, oh my God, so good. But yeah, I would go get myself, you know, just whatever food that I'm really craving that I really love. And I would go and I would sit and I would just watch a movie. Like, cause that's how I just get away from, you know, I don't want to think about school, don't want to think about volleyball. Like I would just sit in my room, eat, watch movies, and it would be so serene. And like to the outside world, they're like, that doesn't really seem like, you know, self-care, but like that was the way that I you know, took care of myself. So
I used to go into the training room and do my self-care there because I would not set time aside for it. Shout out to Lauren Duff, the best athletic trainer ever, but she knew that I was like always overly stressed. So I would go in there and I would have to start by like sitting in her office with like her aroma, her essential oils, her diffuser, and like turn off the light and just like do breathing.
Honestly,
like, take a minute.
She needs a psychology credit for how much we vented to her, and like she just would listen and give us advice and like whatever we needed. Like
I discovered this hidden room. Well, you guys know it, but I feel like nobody used it but me because I would spend hours in there. It was called the relaxation room in the student athlete computer lab. I'm like, I would go in there for 8 hours. And I remember they had like a bean bag and like a blanket. Like I would start, this is when we were in neuroscience. Do you remember that? And I would start studying. I'd take an hour and a half nap. I'm not kidding you. And I'd get back up. And they had these posters that said inhale, exhale. And I would be like, okay, back to my studies. Like that room was awesome.
And also maybe don't be afraid if you feel like tired or spending time with your teammates, which is like, it sounds crazy now. Like, honestly, I would trade all the time in the planet to play with you guys again and everything. But, you know, you spend so much time together. So like, if you want to like on your day off, go and spend time with like your other friends or like friends from your classes. And again, don't be afraid to make friends in classes and outside of volleyball, outside of the student athletes community, you know, so it's just also nice therapy to have.
Like if you're the type of person that needs their alone time, like don't be afraid to be like, hey guys, I just need like an afternoon to myself. Like your teammates are not going to take it personally. Your other friends are not going to take it personally. Like,
Jack told me that he was listening to a podcast and this guy explained introverts and extroverts with a coin analogy, and it makes a lot of sense. Like extroverts wake up every day without coins, and the only way they get coins is interacting with people. And then introverts, they start with coins, and then as they go throughout the day and they interact with people, they lose all their coins. So, every athlete, I think people think athletes are just extroverted because you feel like, they're out there on not a pedestal, but they're out there competing, they're constantly interacting, they're with their team, but that is definitely not the case. I know I'm an extrovert, but would any of you guys consider yourself an introvert, or maybe Rachel, an introvert? I would agree with that.
I didn't realize how introverted I was until I went to college. Like I always throughout high school, I thought I was an extrovert. And then but it was also because I'm an only child and I lived an hour outside of like wherever I went to school. So I had a lot of I would drive almost an hour and a half alone every day. I had that alone time built in. And then whenever I got to college and, had roommates and then we were always together as a team and stuff, I was like, oh my God. I just felt like I was constantly exhausted, but not always because of volleyball or lifting or anything. It was just my social battery was drained. And that's when I was like, okay, I remember freshman year, you're having this distinct memory of I would go get food and then just stay in my car and eat it alone in the parking lot just because I was I need silence. And it took me a long time to realize that. But yeah, I definitely, I do relate.
I know you guys remember how I was freshman year, just angry Rachel all the time. And I didn't realize at first that it was because I never had a moment alone. I look back on those days and I'm like, I really I don't know how I made friends with you guys. I don't know because.
Side note, there was a spider. So freshman year, Rachel dormed with another athlete who was in the program at the time, and I roomed with another athlete who was in the program at the time, who is still one of our best friends. Her name's Taina Benitez. But what happened was Rachel, there was a spider in her room, and we were already friends.
Spider. But let's give them some context. It was a large spider. Okay, keep going.
So she's terrified of spiders, terrified. And she was like, I'm moving out of her dorm, literally moved in with Taina and I on the floor. She had a blow up mattress. We gave her a comforter. We're like, we'll leave the door open for you. And that's how it all started, because we saved you. We saved you from the spider. And we were like, come into our safe haven. Welcome.
Literally took some clothes and a toothbrush. And I was like, I can't. I don't know where my roommate was when the spider, it literally propelled down from the ceiling on its web, maybe 5 feet from my face. And I was like, yeah, this. Yeah. And and I remember the next day, I went back to my dorm and I peeked in the door because I don't know why I thought the spider would be right there, but it was on the wall above my bed. And so I was like, yep, can't move back in. Gotta live with Hannah and Taina.
So this goes into a question someone asked. We talked, I think, balancing our life, but they said, how do you manage your mental health? I think that's a really important one because of the pressure we have, we can all be in different places. So how do we manage that and keep ourselves in a positive mindset throughout our 4 years?
I think don't be afraid to admit that you're struggling, and kind of catch it early on. For me, I could sense that I was withdrawn and just being overly stressed. So then I reached out to our sports psychologist, and I know a lot of athletes can relate to that as well. There's a lot of pressure to constantly be on and be 100% all day, and it's not possible. So going into, seeking help or talking to people. Because that's where I feel like it gets bad, is when you just internalize everything and you shut yourself away from, your support system, or you stop doing things that you enjoy outside of volleyball or outside of school.
I was gonna say, the question was, how did you take care of your mental health and whatnot? in all honesty, I didn't. Like, I held a lot of stuff in, like, I wouldn't use the resources we had. Like, we literally had a sports psychologist whose job it was to support us, you know, like emotionally and things like that. And I did not use any of those resources. Everything was so internalized and it showed. Like, I was a very irritable person, like, couldn't put everything I had into volleyball or schoolwork or, you know, anything. Like, I was just so checked out half the time because I was not taking care of myself. So just my advice would be to use all of the outlets that you're given. And, you know, going back to like the self-care thing, like make sure you're giving yourself that time, even if it means like, you know, oh, I might have to save this assignment for later, or like I might have to turn in this homework late. Like, you yourself, your mental is more important. So
I'd say I had a pretty similar situation with Rachel. Like I knew that I was struggling, but I just was like not, I don't know what it was, but I just was not willing to go and kind of take the steps necessary. And I definitely, that's like something that I do regret, because I just feel like I could have saved myself so much, like just self-harm, like just not even like physical, but just like emotional, like me just being miserable for so long. And I think that also, like, obviously we're all athletes, like you guys are the exercise science majors, but like stress has a real effect on your body. It can like really negatively affect your just like ability to recover, things like that, like sleeping. Like I was an insomniac for like a large portion of my college career, and it definitely like hurt me a lot, like physically, emotionally, everything. Like if you're surviving off of like 3 hours of sleep a night, like consistently, you're gonna have issues. So like I would say like definitely take advantage of your resources. And I mean, also if you don't feel comfortable enough to like take the step to go like to a psychologist or something like that, like at least open up to your friends about it. Like talk to your teammates, talk to your coaches, and also like even your teachers. Like you'd be surprised how flexible and understanding a lot of teachers are about mental health. And especially now, like after everybody went on Zoom and things like that during the pandemic, like people got stuff going on and teachers realize that, they're understanding.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm like the type of person that wears my heart on my sleeve. Like you guys know what I'm like, I'm very open about what I'm frustrated with or what I'm struggling with. So that being said, like I really always went to my teammates. Like my team was like my family. Like you guys were just always there, you know, and Rachel living with me, like if I was like crying in my room, like she every time, you know, would like open the door and be like, it is time to vent. Welcome to like therapy. But no, I mean, really, I deal with struggling through being with people. And so that's why like at UB, I never really got to a low because you guys were so supportive and we had such a strong support system. And I had positive relationships with all of you, you know, so like that's one thing. If you're someone who does wear your heart on your sleeve, and everyone's different, if I were someone to hide my emotions, and Rachel opened up about that a little bit, it can be hard for people to notice that you're struggling. So it can kind of turn into the snowball effect. But for me, I always had people in my corner because I kind of just, I showed it, I displayed it. So, you know, if you, that's why we say, like, when you're in the recruiting process, make sure you really see if the people are a good fit for you, because these girls for 4 straight years, I think what I noticed more about myself was like, and somebody asked about life after sport, but I was more like I struggled more after I left Buffalo more than I ever did when I was there, like emotionally. Like I still have days where, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, but like I miss you guys so crazy. I miss the training. I miss like our culture. I miss doing what we did for 4 years. Like it feels like we've gone through a breakup, and it's just like you have all those memories of what you did with that person all the time, and that's what's really hard. So now how I deal with my mental health is like, because I don't have you guys, like we have our group message. I literally told Jack I went to like a CrossFit gym because I was like, I need a team, like I need to work out with people. And I tried the CrossFit and my shoulder was like, no, you're not doing that. But so if you're the type of person that needs people, just make sure, don't be afraid to reach out and they'll be there for you.
I would also say communication, because I just remember myself sophomore year and me in senior year, like completely two different people. And maybe at that time I thought like, oh, everything is great. But then we had a whole meeting with you guys, with coaches, and I was like, my struggle was like selfishness during volleyball. I remember I was so focused on the numbers rather than team result. And I didn't realize it until we actually sat down and talk about like, hey, like that's what we're not want to see and like how we can change it. And it was a long process for me. And I was like, keep working on it. And like we're downhills and uphills, but at the end of the day, I'm so grateful for whatever we have and like the team chemistry we had, and that I can actually every time go to you guys and hey, I'm struggling. And then like I remember Scout sitting with me when I was crying in biology classes and just like I know it was always extra stress because all the classes were in English, and sometimes I just remember literally losing it, can't speak English for the whole day, but guys still was trying to understand me. So it means a lot. It means a lot.
And one thing, like mental health, when people say they struggle with mental health, it doesn't mean you have a mental disorder. We all have bad days, we all have bad moments. I think there's this stigma around like the word mental health or the phrase I struggle with mental health. It's every human being is going to have a moment where they need support, and that support is going to look different. So athletes, don't be afraid to open up to your coaches, don't be afraid to open up to your teammates, or ask your parents for therapy, or talk to your parents. I know so many people that their parents have no idea what their kid is going through, but it's only like it's your choice how you want to deal with it. But we strongly encourage you that you do find the right support system. Don't try to handle mental health just on your own, because most of the time it's either going to be super delayed, where Scout said she could have made earlier adjustments, or maybe something that you constantly struggle with. So it's not a bad thing, okay, to admit that mental health sometimes is not in the best place. It's just like our physical health sometimes is not in the best place, and you have to listen to that and make necessary changes. So
not forgetting about the people around you with like your own, with whatever's going on with yourself, you know what I mean? Like always checking up on the people that you love, because we get into that lull where we just go through the motions of like our schedule through the day, where sometimes you don't even know that the person right next to you is struggling.
right.
So, you know, checking up on the people that are constantly checking up on you, like those people that are so good about being the funny one, or like bringing that high energy, and they could be the ones that are struggling the most. So even if it's just, I know we talked about this our senior year, just making time to like get to know each other, even if it's just like walking to class together, or getting food together, just like spending 5 minutes just to talk with one another. And I think like the five of us, we did such a good job of like understanding how we respond to you know, criticism, communication, like everything. Like we all respond to things differently. Where I think, you know, now we know each other pretty well, and we're kind of just like one big group.
Yeah.
And we grew together.
Yeah, I think, and I want to give credit to our coaching staff at the time when we started Mentality Mondays. We at the college level, guys, like our coaches took 45 minutes on Mondays to sit down and talk about the mental side of the game and how we can really focus on that while we're physically training. And we went through a bunch of different topics, but I'm gonna bring up, like, for example, from that, Blair came up with this huge banner that we put in our gym that was like, negativity equals I. So we went through this phase as a team where we were very, we would make errors and we kind of just let that determine the rest of practice or determine a match. And, we would wear our emotions in a negative way, and we didn't manage them well at the time overall as a group. And so if we had a moment in practice where she was making the point where, if you let your emotions control you and you aren't making the changes you need to be more positive, it's negative and it's selfish and it's not a team culture. So we're in practice and, like, let's say I got aced and I was didn't give the person next to me a high five. I know that sounds elementary and we're playing Division I volleyball, but Blair would be like, banner, go. Like you would have to run to this banner, touch it, and come back. And I don't know. That's just an example of like our coaches even spent time on the intangible aspect of it, because mental health. That's another part of mental health is like dealing with failure or struggle, and we can't sit there and be mad about it. I know I made a post about that, but we had a banner put up in our own gym that we had to touch in the middle of practice. So, Polina, why are you laughing? Did you have to touch that banner ever?
I knew you were gonna say. I just remember it's again all about keeping each other accountable. And there was a moment when I was struggling so bad, and I just remember Hannah coming to me, it's like, "Hey, you gotta go, hit that thing." And I did at least 15 times. I would just after each point, when I was getting upset, I would go smash that thing.
Paulina, I remember with you and I would stand next to each other at the net and I would be like, fix your face. Why is it like that? And Hannah would, Hannah would definitely do the same thing too. Like, why do you look like that? Fix it.
Well, I just remember like cursing in Russian because like nobody can understand. I was so mad at myself, and nobody
The amount of Russian curse words that we all know now because of Polina.
Again, it's like all about learning about each other. So like at the end of the day, you guys, coaches learned Russian. So like I was just like, you know what, this is not an option. I better go hit that wall.
And this is where these questions kind of tie into it. So I feel like we are talking a lot about like the struggles, and I think these next questions will like end with the struggles, and then we'll end with like the very positive things with playing in college. But here's an important question a 14-year-old asked me. The two go together. It's, have you ever thought about quitting entirely in the middle of a practice or a season, quitting the sport and just not doing it anymore? And how do you bounce back after those bad days or practices? Have you guys ever thought about quitting?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody's had that moment.
Absolutely. I remember I was kicked out of Lyft during my, I think it was sophomore and junior year, because I just couldn't get it together.
This was also at 5:30 in the morning because me and
I'm
Pete
sorry,
had
wait.
a morning class, and so we were in there at 5:30 in the morning.
Wait, was this two separate occasions? Because I remember being in there with Paulina the one time.
It was like a week.
He was like sitting behind the couch in the dark.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We've all been there. It's just at that moment I was, this is it. I was sitting behind the couch, you turn off the light. I was like, I don't know what to do. It was like at that point when I didn't know if I should go apologize or just pack my stuff, book the flight to Russia and just say bye. Like, what really helped me was coming and asking for help my teammates, because I lost it at that point. I was just like, I don't know. I was mad. I was sad. I didn't know what to do. I was so lost.
And you were refusing to leave Lyft. Like, you're like, I promise, like, I'll do the snatches. But you were at that point just like so over it. And Coach Mike was like, Paulina, leave. I said, P, go, leave.
And again, I mean, it was like all together, like I didn't sleep enough. I was sleeping for like 4 hours because I needed to study, and I was failing my classes, and practices didn't go well. Also, so the girls know, but like my parents put so much pressure onto me. Like, so it's normal to have hard relationship with your parents. That is why you need another support system, which is like your teammates, coaches, and they will really held you together and like help you to figure out what you can do better in this situation.
I think everybody, like, I know very few people who have never thought about not quitting. Like, I think everybody has a moment where they just feel like they're pushed to their edge, like pushed to their limit, and they think about it. But like the other part of the question is like, how do you like reel yourself back from that? Or like what made me reel myself back from that is you just gotta like, I mean, from this video you can tell that like our way of coping is to laugh, and you just have to kind of like take a step back and see the humor in the situation. Like, even if you do like make that decision to quit, if it really is truly like in your best interest to quit, like it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, you play volleyball because you love the game. And it does get a little comical whenever the game that you love puts so much pressure on you and can make you so like feel like you're so miserable in that moment. Like even just like the added pressure of it and everything. And you just have to take a step back and be like, I do love this sport. Like I promise I do. Like, and then just take a moment, reflect and calm down and just kind of think of a path forward of usually it means more sleep, better self-care, and then you feel better the next day. But just taking a moment to calm down in that situation.
Like with that, you have to, because like reeling yourself back into things like that, with that, you have to recognize, like you have to step back and reflect, and like you have to decide whether like, is it today, like is it whatever happened this day or like this week that's making me feel this way, or is it fundamental things about the team, the program, whatever, that's making me feel like I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it could just be a horrible day of practice, or like lift, you know, like getting kicked out or something. Like it can make you feel like, you know what, I'm done with this. But then you have to realize like this is one day of whatever hundreds of days that I'm going to be doing this. But like, you know, if it's, you know, you can't get on the same page as your coaches or the rest of your team, then, you know, you got to take that step back and realize like, would I benefit better from another program? So
most of the time when you love what you do, or you love the people you do whatever with, and you know, think about people who love their job, you know, like they tend to excel in it. They get through those hard times because they see the worth in those hard days. They see the worth in the struggle, and they know that there's going to be more good than bad. But I know, like, my biggest motivator, or you know, the biggest thing that kept me in the game truly was the love for the game. And then once I got to college, like the love for the game is tested a lot because it changes from high school to college, and that's one thing that somebody asked. I mean, it does intensify. It intensifies, and it does become a little bit more like a job. And I'm sure it intensifies even more when you go to pro, which Polina could talk about. But really what kept me rooted, what kept me grounded, was the love I had for my teammates and the love I had for the program. Like, it's crazy when you sit back and think about the privilege you have to be competing at the level that you're at. It is actually rare. It is rare compared to the population for you to go on and play in college. And it's even more rare for you to graduate as still being a student athlete. So I always remember the hard days. I'm like, wow, like a coach chose me to come here to be a part of this program. And wow, I get to be here with a selective group, training, doing this sport that we love every single day. And wow, like my body gets to do this right now. Like I remember towards the end of our senior year, like I'm like, I won't be able to do this forever. And it like made me sad, you know, but I had days, and you guys, like, I know we laugh about it, but the day I was like, I don't know if your girl can do this. I was flipped over on my backside like this, trying to breathe for air, because Blair Brown was like, no one wants the ball. She was because we weren't picking up tips. So we did this drill called accelerations. And the problem was she had a number in her head and you don't know what she's going to. And our group was just going and going and going. And I literally hit oxygen deficit to the point where my lungs were like, quit. And I was just like, I remember looking up and Scott was like, you got it. And I remember that. And I remember my teammates being like, get up. And I'm like, don't you think I would if I could get up right now? Don't you think I would get up? Like I would get up and run if I could get up and run. But that day has become one of my favorites because I really think it was a breaking point. But it made me realize, like Rachel said, it's temporary. It's such a temporary feeling.
I was gonna say, you got back up eventually.
And in those moments, we are in like so much pain that we think we're about to die. I don't know about you guys, but like phantom blocker, I thought I was going to simply pass away. And remember when we had the heart monitors?
Yeah.
My heart rate got up to like 206. Yeah, it was like 206.
During our warm-ups, and I don't know why.
I know, but Lauren was like, you know, Chris's heart rate's really high. Like we might want to bring her out to the side. They're like, no, she's fine. And I would have those moments where I would like look at Scout, like and just be in so much pain. She's like, you got it. You
I
got
would
it.
just be like, just hold on. We're almost there. You got it.
Scout,
God.
I remember this like freshman year. This was before you guys got there, but we did have an athlete. I'm not gonna mention her name, but she was struggling, and Scout was setting her on the right side, and Scout was like turned around and be like, "Come on, like let's go," and she was crying. Do you remember this? Do you
Yes, and I just that was like the first time that I'd ever like she was just having a rough day. And I just turned around. I didn't, because obviously I'm back setting. I had no idea what was going on behind me. I just like knew that we weren't passing the drill. And so I turn around and I'm like, it's okay. Like immediately. But no, everybody has those days. They really.
So go ahead. You can keep going.
I was gonna say cue Hannah Montana.
Oh my gosh,
Everybody.
everybody.
But we like remember when we would just like look at our hands, we're like, what are we doing? Why can I not play volleyball today?
Oh, shoot.
I also will tell you guys another moment where, not that I wanted to quit entirely, but I did want to quit my existence at the time, like in that game, was when we were home.
That's a pinky serve.
Already was struggling with serving because it just became something I struggled with. And I straight up served the ball with my pinky top. It served with my pinky top. Like, I don't think it made the 10-foot line. And we were winning that set. So it was kind of like I looked over at Blair and she just was like almost so shocked that she witnessed that. She didn't even know what to say. So she was, and like the whole coaching staff was just, move on. I'm like, nobody knew what to say. Like, you have a whole gym that's silent because you just served a ball with your pinky at the Division I level. That's me, number 7 coming in. Here I am.
Those are the moments we live for.
So obviously we have a lot of things that we laugh about, a lot of struggles, but there are a lot of good things from our experience, and that's why we love reflecting on it. Somebody asked us, what was your favorite thing, your most favorite thing about playing college volleyball?
Who I played it with.
Who you
See,
played it with?
Yeah, you're looking at it.
Yeah.
like the memories we all made together, like how close we got over the years, like that's it.
I would say one of my favorite memories was winning our last home game against Miami. It
Yeah.
was our senior night. It was just like a miracle. Literally, we like throughout our whole college career, we would never win Miami. It was one of our top teams, and then hitting the senior night, we won in a 3-2 thriller. Like, I don't know how else you can call it. And then having like amazing senior night and all the tears, smiles, and having all the people together, that was huge, and it just in my heart forever.
Same exact moment, everything. I will say, like, obviously I miss hanging out with you guys, but like, and it's rare, but like we can still get together, but the playing with you guys is like, that's my favorite, because it is the camaraderie, just like even like little stupid stuff where it was like we would joke around with each other, and it just like, whenever you have a teammates plural who like understand how you tick and like are just there to have fun with you, it's really the best. So
It's
Yeah,
so
and
special.
fun
It
of
really
not
is.
being able to speak English. That's like the best part. Having this whole
Pull out the dictionary of Helena's made up words. Pull that out.
Oh yes.
Have that. I have a
English 1, 2, 3. English 1, 2, 3.
Do you have your legends on? Do you have legends on?
grind. It's time to grind.
Green.
Green time.
Now, but at that time, it was very embarrassing.
I know, and I want to give credit to Polina for real though, because I was just talking to an athlete about you the other day, and I'm like, she literally came to the U.S. at 17 and went into started college, like learning English, which I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. And I mean, that's amazing, Polina, for real. I know we
Got good grades. Like,
but it, honestly, English is the hardest language, one of the hardest languages to learn, and to learn it at 17 and try to learn like new concepts And didn't you start as a bio major too? Like,
I graduated as a bio major, I would tell you.
Yes, ma'am.
Minor.
I mean, it's just, this is all I have for you. I'm just so.
I couldn't make it without you guys. You was a huge support system. So love you guys.
So this one, so we'll just go down here. Says, did you train as hard as you did in the off season as you did in season?
I will start off saying this. I should have. That is my one largest regret.
Tell us why.
Not okay, because listen,
What happened was,
you know,
So what
you know,
happened?
your body, you know, you're young, you're in your prime and whatnot, and you think that you will be able to bounce back like that. It is untrue. No matter what anybody says, no matter what you tell yourself, you can't. It will take you at least a month and a half to get back to where you were from the past spring. If you take the entire summer off, like I tended to do, it will take you like all of preseason and, you know, a couple weeks into season to get back to where you were. So I will say, definitely try to like keep up your playing, you know, just make sure you know like the rules and everything. So don't let yourself get rusty. And I will also say keep up with some sort of cardio / lifting schedule, because that's like summer / winter is plenty of time for your muscles to just fall off.
You want to be able to just worry about volleyball when it's time to worry about volleyball and not your stamina. You know, you want that to come naturally. So, I mean, you guys can agree or disagree, but I think there's a difference and this goes with every sport, but there's a difference between being in shape and then in your competitive shape. Like, you know, we would say in volleyball shape, because, you know, we get to a certain point where we're training throughout season. You don't get tired in drills. I mean, all you're focusing on is your technical skill. But if you come back from off season, you'll notice right away, like, you're like, whew, your girl's winded after some ball control. You're like, this is different, you know? So that, and then the other thing too is you guys don't want to get injured. So just keeping up with a maintenance program. I mean, really off season is where you do want to make big gains, but even if you're maintaining, when you come back, your risk of injury is so much lower. You know what I mean? So look out, you know, reach out to gyms that are in your area. You know, if you have a strength coach in high school, because I know that's something that's up and coming. There's a lot of strength coaches in high school. See if they can help you out. You know, if once you get to college, stay in contact with your strength coach during summer. They are there to help you. Also, your athletic trainers too. You will have an athletic trainer on staff. Ours was, I want to say, the best of the best. They're always there to help you. So don't be afraid to take advantage of your off season. There really is no off season.
yeah. And if you're provided with a program in the off season, do it. It's there to help you. Your strength coach isn't sending you that just to be a jerk. You know, he like do it.
Remember we had like planks. This was early on though, but we had planks on our program for an off-season program, and then we all came back and Blair's like, okay, we're gonna do a plank. Like 50% of her could actually do it. He's like, now I know. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. This is a really good question. How did you earn your playing time in college?
For me, coming in my sophomore year, I did not feel like I was at the level that everyone was, because I transferred, because I was goofy footed. Like there was a lot of kinks I had to work out. But I just remember each and every day I was like, okay, what do you need me to do? What should I fix for you? You know, being very coachable. And I think that's really important when you're earning your playing time, is just like putting in that work, and coaches will see that. And for me, I mean, one of our other middles got hurt, so I had to take over her place and just like work with what I had and hope that it was good. But really just like putting in that extra work outside of the gym, or like coming in and doing extra reps or watching film, doing like going above and beyond outside of the gym.
I mean, like one thing, like your coaches are there to help you. So literally, if you are not playing, you can literally ask them like, hey, what do I need to get better at to be able to, get more playing time on the court? And they will tell you, like, they're not going to be like, oh, well, I prefer her, so I'm not going to, I'm not going to say anything. Like, they will tell you, and you can put in that time yourself, or you can ask, teammates to come in their free time, or even like your coaches will take some of their free time and come in the gym outside of practice and help you get better at it. Like, because at the end of the day, they're there to help you.
Yeah, I think one thing that always helped me get on the court, and I think it's important, obviously it's a big part of what I do now, but intangibles, like I always took the role on being an energizer and like making hustle plays. And I was like, I'm going to be a defensive specialist that goes in and helps the momentum. At least that was my goal. I'm like, if we were struggling as a team, like I wanted to go in and be like a catalyst where like that changes, and so in practice, like I loved competing. But I love practices too, because I mean, there's no pressure. I just felt like it was a environment for me to show like the influence I have on like our team's our energy overall. And so coaches pick up on that, guys. Like it is important. I think even when I was younger, my energy and like hustle was a big reason why I got to play. And that carried over on into college. So don't be afraid to like, I also had to be consistent though. Like once, like my senior year was my best year of serve receive ever, I would say. And maybe like it was like I was just more consistent. Then my serving changed, but I flopped those out. No, just kidding. But like I still had to be like reliable defensively. But I'm telling you, and I'll be honest about this, like I struggled with serve receive so much, really bad my freshman and sophomore year. And I still got to play because defense and energy. And they pulled me out of serve receive. I literally was a DS that went in and got pulled out of serve receive, and that's rare to see that. And I'm lucky, one, because of our roster at the time, like freshman and sophomore year, we didn't have tons of defensive specialists. But two, I think it was because I did bring some type of value. So I think once I, one, embraced my role, like, okay, you're going to be a 3-row DS, but you are an energizer. Like once you know and accept like what your specific role is for the team, just master that and don't try to be something you're not. And I think that's the best advice for earning time on the court.
Yeah.
I will say also, like they touched on it, but the always extra reps in film, you can't go wrong. That shows like a lot of initiative to coaches, and like you'll pick up on, like I think a lot of times, like some of my biggest leaps as a player were from like getting benched sometimes and like being able to watch the court from like an outside perspective and really like pick up on like, oh, like I don't feel it whenever I'm out here, but like, oh, this, we need this right now, or we need something else. And you pick up a lot of information just by like observing. And sometimes like, I think that I became a better player by being benched, but then like it did take that initiative to get back out there. Yeah. Also, like my junior year, I had like, I just had a bad season. It was just bad. But like a big thing that coaches look at too, and just like, if you're worried about playtime and things like that, the mental side of things, like I think a lot of players can relate, like to if you're playing next to somebody who's giving off like that anxious energy or frantic energy, and it's just kind of causing disruption on the court and things like that, especially for a setter. That was my main issue. Keeping a level head, keeping consistent, like calm energy, making good decisions, and just kind of like breaking it down. Cause I think a lot of people can kind of like, they get excited. And so they get that ramped up energy and they think that that means that it's like great for everybody. And some players like really feed off that, but know yourself and kind of know what you perform best at. Because for the longest time, I was like, I play great whenever I'm like really hyped up and kind of angry and like everything. And that was just like not my style. That is not how I perform best. And it like knowing yourself and knowing how you personally like perform best, even if you have like a ritual or things like that, that really like know your mindset, know what helps your team the most. And I think that's like a lot of that's an area where a lot of players kind of don't realize that they can affect their playtime. And it's one of the once it clicks, it's like one of the easiest things to fix.
Just be vocal, and also if you struggle with something during the game, you can always contribute to the team with something else. So like, let's say if you struggle with attacking, you can get a good reception and help the middles to go off, or like help, like I know Hannah will be behind me, but like, hey, I got you on the block, like, I'll get it done. And it's just what really helped me with like, okay, my huge spot was like attacking, right? But like if it didn't go, I was like, okay, I'll just pull up the block, I will pull up the defense and cover it, and that's what's going to work out for me.
Yeah.
What's so important too is just being tuned in, like
Yeah.
being focused, ready to go, and just being like one on the court and knowing your responsibilities as a player. Like for me, being a middle, my responsibilities were blocking, getting off quickly, and pulling the middle blocker,
You know,
and being an option. Exactly. But like just being true to your role and being engaged at all times, because it's so hard when you are disengaged from your team, because then things start to fall apart, because you're supposed to be working as like a what's the word, just like
Unit.
yeah, just like a unit. And so when one piece of that unit goes, then other things go. So just remembering that you're one of your whole team.
yeah.
And even when you're not on the court, same
Right.
role applies. Like you're still a part of that. And like one thing about being on the bench that might help you get off is being a good bench player, because the coaches, you might not think they're looking at you because the game is going on, but they see how you act on the bench. They see that you're, bitter about not being on the court, or they see that you're, not helping call in and out, not being the most like vocal, I don't want to say cheerleader, but like you're not, getting hype when the game is going good and things like that. Or like you're, laughing and goofing off when the game is going bad, when you should really be focusing on the court and like trying to help, either calling it out or like help hitters see shots, or like, calling out like stutter dumps and things like that. Like you have to be a good bench player before you can be a good player on the court. Like they'll see how you act on the bench and they'll respond to that. So
Everybody always like if you're behind somebody like in the lineup too, like anybody can have a bad game at any point. So you need to be ready to go at all times. And like that you need to be present on the bench to be able to like fulfill that for your teams. Cause like, I mean, perfect example, I got rocked in the face during a game and Kia was ready to go on the outside. She led the team for the rest of the season, did a great job setting, but like nobody expected that going in. So you really need to be like dialed in. She knew exactly what rotation to go into, like things like that. Cause if something does happen, like somebody, God forbid, like rolls an ankle or anything like that, and they need to be subbed out, like you got to be ready to go, and you don't want to be the person who has to be babysat when they do have to go in, like not know what rotation you're in, not know who's in the front row on the other side, things like that. So yeah, just staying dialed in.
And consistency is key, guys. I mean, you could have a really great practice, but that does not mean you're going to start the next time, because if you don't maintain a consistent level of performance, you're not a reliable player. So then it's like you're opening up a box of chocolates, like we don't know if we're going to get the one with the caramel or the one with that nasty raspberry cream inside. It's like, which chocolate are we going to get today?
that is exactly the player I was my freshman and sophomore year. I was hot garbage. I would play, pretty good, great in practice. And then I would get in the game freshman year, say like for a sub, someone else having a bad game, whatever. Or even, sometimes they would dare to start me because I'd have a great week in practice. And then just everything went downhill immediately. To this day, I don't know why. Can't tell you. But
the chocolate with caramel all year in 2019.
I can't believe you call it caramel and not caramel.
either way, it was good.
I think we kind of hit on it, so someone can just kind of freshen it up. But the question was, how hard was it to transition from high school to college?
I think it was extremely difficult, just because you go from high school where you are the best and you're leading your team and you could be the face of the team because you stand out, and then you come to college and everyone's the best. And so it's a really humbling experience when you come in and everyone's really good, and now um, you don't have a guaranteed spot, you know? Like, yes, your coach recruited you because they saw that your potential as an athlete and for the team, but then it's up to you to put in the work when you get there. It's hard when you come into a team and everyone's really good, and you almost have to like find that extra push each and every practice to just like excel that much further.
I mean, you know, for me, it was definitely like that. Like I was the outside hitter, I was the player at my high school and sometimes even during club. But got to college and there were four other outsides there, three or four other outsides that we had, and it was just a very, very humbling experience because we were all pretty much the same, you know, level of play, level of experience and whatnot. And so that just made it really hard for me to be the best player I could be mentally because, you know, I went from being the player to a player. And then like even, you know, switching gears, like um in the classroom, like I went from being, you know, a high school student that could procrastinate and still get the job done and still get good grades. And then you get to college and it's like, whoa, I don't have the time to procrastinate anymore. Like I can't, you know, can't really can't really put things off like I used to and still get them done because, you know, like this is college and it's not like you actually have to, this is a poor choice of words, but you actually have to put effort into your assignments and things like that because, you know, just the level of education and the way that professors teach is so different from in high school. So, yeah.
I think it's tough. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself at a high level. You know, and so that is why it is really tough. And I think it is rare to find people that stick to being in college. And it doesn't, if you end up walking away from being a student athlete, that does not mean you're not tough or, you know, you're not elite or whatever. Everybody has to make choices that are best for them. But I think what's really hard is the fact that you are pushed to a whole different level, there is a lot of pressure on you. And it's something that you won't understand until you're there because you don't have that pressure in high school right now. There's no need for that pressure to be on you because you know what Rachel already said, like you're pulling all these people when you get to college that were the player, and now we all were the player, and now you put us in one place. And so you have to differentiate yourself. You have to deal with egos. You have to figure out who's going to be leaders on top of leaders, like figuring out just how culture is going to work. Coaches themselves, like I applaud them because that is something that's really hard to do, is create a culture, a cohesive culture when you're bringing in all these leaders, you know? So I think the biggest difference, along with obviously the speed and like the level of consistency that you need to have, it's learning how to differentiate yourself in a more elite or high level pool. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say like if you're not a natural born competitor, learn how to be one because that is what is going to give you that edge.
Adapt or die, baby.
I was just gonna say, I think I had a little bit easier time because my club was so like intense. High school definitely, like high school is worlds different from college, but I would say like there are some clubs that have similar schedules that some college teams. But one of the biggest things for me that I knew that I had, you know, seen these types of videos where people are just like, you're not going to be prepared until you're there for like the level of commitment that you need, like the hours you put in and all that stuff. So I kind of knew that was coming my way. But one thing that I will say that was kind of a surprise to me was just like high school and club, like the girls that you're playing with, they are similar to you, that you're from the same area, you usually have like similar backgrounds, things like that. And one of the things that I had issues with or struggled to like adapt to at first in college was like learning as a setter, you got to like motivate your team, and learning how to motivate an entirely new set of people from all these different backgrounds, all these different areas of the country. They were not like, their previous training is usually like completely different. Like everybody's on a different page unless they like have been like fully committed to the program for a while. But like all these freshies coming in, we all had very different backgrounds and things like that. And learning to motivate like a whole new set of people, or just even play with a whole new set of people, like there's always like it was hard at first to kind of know how to talk to people and like know what made them tick. Like, you know, if I hadn't known better, if we didn't already know Rachel after that fall and me trying to joke around with her after that, not a good idea. Like things like that, where you just got to know how people are going to respond to stuff. Like, and that was definitely like a big difference between like high school and college for me. It was just like, people are different.
What was it like in Russia? Like, what was your high school experience like in Russia? It has to be so different from ours.
For me, it was a little bit easier, because when you guys transition from high school to college, you're also moving away from your parents' house, right? So you really need to take care of yourself now. You're on your own. I mean, you do have support system, but you also need to take care, like, hey, it's my responsibility to like go to all the classes, to go to rehab if I have any aches or anything. For me, I was growing up in a special sports school, which is like I lived without outside my parents' house since like 14, and I kind of learned all this like responsibility and like how to take care of myself. But mine was like more dedicated to like volleyball, so like I would have 3 practices a day, and then I would go to classes. But like I was, every time my coach would be like, hey, you need to have a good grades, and like all this pressure. Then like when I came to America, like I had this freedom. And at first it was kind of like wow, like actually free to do everything, like whatever. So for me, this freedom was kind of like an issue, because for example, I couldn't figure out my major till like end of the sophomore year, and then even in junior year like a switch because it was like too hard, and I stepped back. But then eventually, like, yes, I picked up all my stuff and get it together. But I would say the biggest transition, maybe it's like to learn how to become this responsible person and a responsible adult, because this is like not childhood anymore. Like you do serious things now.
Yeah.
You can't eat cereal 24/7, not for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You actually need to meal
Another
prep.
thing that's like 24/7, that's different, way different from high school and club guys, is these girls you spend, and that's why we talked a little bit about self-care is kind of taking yourself out away from the team, but we spent so much time together. And we were lucky enough to have our own locker room and have the resources we did at our school. Not every school has those resources, but I mean, you can't get away with anything pretty much on your team. They do turn into sisters. Doesn't mean you guys are always going to be as close as sisters. It's just, they're going to know you inside and out. They're going to know, they're going to see you at your lowest moments. They're going to be there at your highest moments. And I think that is something really special that we have, is we have a good relationship from that all, from all of that. Not everybody goes into a program, and sometimes their lows stay low, and that's why they end up leaving, because it's not the right culture. So that's the difference, is like high school and club, like you go home with your immediate family, you go home with your parents, you spend way more hours with them in club, but it's nothing like college. So be prepared to be closer to a team than you ever thought you could be. That's one thing I would say. The last thing, and I think it's a good one to end with, is just what advice would you give a 16 or 17-year-old, or just anybody who thinks they are not good enough to play at the next level?
Honestly, I didn't even know like if I could play at the next level when I was at that age. I literally had to ask my coach and be like, hey, like, do you think, this is something that is possible for me? Like, what can I work on to get there type deal. So that'd be my advice, is literally just to ask, because they'll let you know, like, especially if they come from a college background or like a higher level background, like they'll tell you.
Like when you have that goal and that dream, keep your mind set on it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't doubt yourself. um Put in that work to really fulfill your dream, because I mean, for me, I started when I was 16 and I was like, there's no way that this is going to work. I'm not going to play volleyball in college. And I put in the work every day and just had my eyes set on the prize, basically. And you just have that dream and don't be afraid to go for it, basically.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think it's important just to have honest conversations with the coach if you are in contact with the coach. I mean, I had a ton of people turn me down. Like, I definitely like, they'd be like, "Oh, we're just looking for, somebody twice your height and a lefty," or like whatever they were wanting. And like, you're gonna get turned down. Like, it'll happen. But also, um, the other thing that I would say is that, yeah, just put in that work. Like, if you really want to play, there's a place for you somewhere. Like, maybe it's not maybe it's not in a Division 1 school, but like, seriously look into club programs. Like, there's a bunch of really competitive, really great club programs out there. Like in college, not even the high school club ones, but just things like that. Like, there's multiple levels to volleyball and they're all competitive. So even Chris just played in an adult league tournament like last weekend. So there's always opportunities. And if you really love to play, don't let, a scholarship or a coach hold you back from that. Like, just keep playing if you want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys, there's a stigma with like D1, D2, D3. Like, any athlete that plays in college, you are legit. Like, you are awesome. Even, it doesn't matter what level you play at. That is something to be very proud of. And it's something that you can work to achieve. And you take the time to find out what level is best for you. Like, I remember going back, like when I played at AVC, they were honest with me. They're like, you can play D1, but you're going to have to be in the back row the whole time. Like, I was a small 6-row outside for a national team at AVC, and I did well. But again, it's a whole nother level. And they're like, you're not going to be an outside D1. They said, but you could, if you want to be the player you are right now and try to play 6 rows, you could look at Division 2 schools that may want you, a little, shot maker on the outside. And I had to sit there and think, okay, like, what do I want? So it's more like what fits you. Don't let social media or what your friends say or what your parents' expectations of what level they think is impressive influence what you really want for yourself. Don't think if you're not D1, you're not good enough at all to play in college, or if you're not D2, you're not good enough. Like, there are so many opportunities out there in so many schools. And lastly, like, and I do believe this, like, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So you'll count yourself out. It takes one person to invest in you. So
I would
And
also I would also just say, if you are, don't settle for a school that you're not in love with just because you want that title. Because at the end of the day, people that are going to a school just because they want that title of like D1, or you want like, a big school name, like, they almost always transfer because they're unhappy at that school. So go to a school that you love first and then find a way to play volleyball there.
it's just such an amazing accomplishment to be playing volleyball on top of everything else in life. Like, finding that added time to balance everything, even in high school, it's amazing.
Helena, what is your thoughts on, and your next level is, now you've gone even a level higher, and Scout already talked about dealing with trying to get to that next level and getting people to believe in you. Talk to us about you going to play pro and how you got there.
Yeah, it's been quite an experience for now, because right after graduation, I knew, yes, I want to play professionally, but then the COVID happened and it was very hard to find the club, especially like, so in order to go professionally, you need to find agency, and like, you need to start working with sport agent, and it's a whole new experience. I never ever had experienced something like this. I got turned off so many times. I almost gave up this dream, just found a job, and I was like, whatever, like trying to keep up with like staying in shape and everything. But then it was like, I I think one of the questions was like, what's your life after sport? As you can see, I don't see my life without sport. So I decided, no, I will come back and try to do my best. So I would say just really believe that it's going to happen and work as hard as possible for it. As well as like, don't be afraid to try new things, like for me, getting my first professional contract, and then I was the biggest transition was like that. I used to play with you guys, right? Like I know which things works better for me, what type of sets and everything, but it's a whole new team. Like they don't know me, I don't know them. So it's like, again, a whole new learning process, and just like staying patient with this system and be ready to adjust. That's the biggest thing for me now.
Now, how long do you think you'll play pro? You don't know? As long as you can?
Well, now I'm just trying to combine both coaching and playing because, you like, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. So it's like hard to predict, especially with high intensity, like injuries is, you can never predict if you're going to get one or something, or like even just trying to find a new contract. But for as long as possible, that would be great.
That's awesome. Well, we went through a lot of different questions. We're the type of group that could probably talk forever. We did at UV all the time, just long nights, and I miss those. But one thing I would say is like, one thing I learned about the whole making a decision is like when I sit here in front of this camera right now, and I know a lot of people are asking like, how did you know Buffalo was the right decision? Like, this is how I know, is because I have these relationships like right here, and like I feel so lucky to have you guys in my life, and I just want people to hear from us so that they can maybe take something that will lead them to have a similar result. At the end of the day, I remember the big wins and some of the tough losses, but we talked about this on our senior banquet. It's like all the bus rides and the locker room talks and the movie nights. Those are the things you're going to remember and really make your experience a good one. So, and I know like sitting here, like the moment I reached out to you guys, like, hey, will you guys support Beyond? Like they want to hear from you. Like it was like a no brainer. You guys were like there. So to just have that, it means the world to me. And so I'm forever thankful for UB. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know the girls and whoever else watches, like it's cool to hear from all of you guys. Like we all have our own perspective and opinions. So I appreciate it. But that's all we have.